Daf Yomi, Tractate Sanhedrin, page 23a, top of the page, starting a new chapter of Zeb Borer. The Mishnah says, Dine mamanas b'shleisha, Zeb Borer lo echad, v'Zeb Borer lo echad. U'shneihen borerin lahen od echad, divrei Rabbi Meir. V'chachamim omrim, Shnei dayanin borerin lahen od echad. The Mishnah says, cases of monetary law are adjudicated by three. They are chosen in the following manner. This litigant chooses one for himself, and that litigant chooses one for himself, and the two of them choose one more for themselves. This is the statement of Rabbi Meir. And the rabbis say the two judges that were chosen choose one more judge for themselves. Okay. Ze posel dayano shel ze, v'ze posel dayano shel ze. Divrei Rabbi Meir. Chachamim omrim, matai, b'zeman shemevi aleim raya, she'en krovin o psulin. Aval im hayu kesherin o mumchin, mipi bet din, eno yachol leposlan. This litigant can disqualify the judge chosen by that litigant, and that litigant can disqualify the judge chosen by this litigant. This is the statement of Rabbi Meir. And the rabbis say, when can one of the litigants disqualify the judges? Only when he brings evidence about them that they are related to one of the litigants or to each other, or that they are disqualified from serving as judges for another reason. But if they are fit to serve as judges or are experts ordained by the court, he cannot disqualify them. Ze posel edav shel ze, v'ze posel edav shel ze. Divrei Rabbi Meir. Yechachamim omrim, masai bizman shemevi aleim rayo, shem kroivin lepasolin, aval im hayu kesherin, eno yachol liposlan. This litigant can disqualify the witnesses of that litigant, and that litigant can disqualify the witnesses of this litigant. This is the statement of Rabbi Meir. And the rabbis say, when can one litigant disqualify the other's witnesses? Only when he brings evidence about them that they are related to one of the litigants or to each other, or that they are disqualified from bearing witness for another reason. But if they are fit to serve as witnesses, he cannot disqualify them. Okay, Gemara. The Gemara says, Mai ze borer lo echad ze borer lo echad bitelat hasagi. The Gemara assumes that the statement, this litigant chooses one, and that litigant chooses one, and the two of them choose one more, means that each litigant chooses a court of three judges, and the two courts together choose one more court for a total of 9 judges. The Gemara asks, for what purpose does this litigant choose one court for himself and that litigant choose one court for himself? Isn't it sufficient to judge the case with 3 judges. Hachi Gamar, Kishazeh Borer Lo, Beit Din Echad, V'zeh Borer Lo, Beit Din Echad, Shneihen Borerin Lahen, Od Echad. Gemara answers, this is what the Mishnah is saying. In a case where this litigant chooses one court for himself, meaning that he requests to be judged before the 3 specific judges, and that litigant chooses one other court of 3 judges for himself, as he does not wish to be judged before the court that the first litigant requested. In this case, both of them choose one more court for themselves. In other words, they must reach a compromise and decide about the composition of the court that will judge them. ואפילו לא יווה מצי מעכב, ואמר רבי אלעזר, לא ישנו אלא מלווה, אבל לא יווה כופן עושו ודן בעירו. The Gemara asks, and can even a debtor restrict the choice of the court? But doesn't Rabbi Elazar say, the sages taught, that only a creditor can refuse a court chosen by the debtor due to his desire to be judged by a prominent court? But that, as for a debtor, they compel him to appear in the court that presides in his own city. כדאמר רבי יוחנן בערכאות שבסוריה שנו, החנמה בערכאות שבסוריה שנו, אבל מומחין לא. The Gemara answers, it is as Rabbi Yochanan says concerning a different matter, that the sages taught that other matter with regard to the layman's courts, Arkaot in Syria. Here too, the sages taught the halakha in the Mishnah with regard to the layman's courts in Syria, which allow even the debtor to refuse to be judged before the court chosen by the creditor, claiming that they are not worthy judges. But if the creditor chooses a court of experts, the debtor does not have the right to refuse to be judged before them. Rav Papa Amar afilu tema mumchin. Excuse me, been a little bit under the weather lately. Afilu tema mumchin kagon beidina Rav Huna udrav Chizda kada amar le Mika matrachna lach. Rav Papa said, you may even say that the Mishnah is referring to courts of experts in the same city, such as the courts of Rav Huna and of Rav Chizda. And in that case, each litigant can say to each other, I am burdening you by requesting that you be judged by a different court. Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah, Yechacham Maimrim, Shnei Denen Bairin Lahen, Od Echad. V'is al Kedaitach Keda Amrinan, Beis Din Basar Depasdi, Lehu Azlu Ubareru Lehu Beidina Acharine. We learned in the Mishnah, and the rabbis say, the two judges that were chosen choose one more for themselves. And if it enters your mind to interpret the Mishnah, as we said before, that each litigant chose a court of three judges, this statement is difficult. After each court was disqualified by one of the litigants, shall the members of both courts go and choose another court for themselves? The ode, and furthermore, Mai ze borer lo echad, v'ze borer lo echad. What is the reason? What reason? For what reason would the Mishnah state that the standard procedure for choosing judges is that this litigant chooses one court for himself, and that litigant chooses one court for himself, each disqualifying the court that the other chose? Ela hachi ka'amar, כשזה בורר לא דיין אחד, וזה בורר לא דיין אחד, שניהם בוררים להן עוד אחד. Excuse me. Rather, this is what the Mishnah is saying. When the litigant chooses one judge for himself, before whom he requests to be judged, and that litigant chooses one other judge for himself, before whom he requests to be judged, the two litigants then choose one more judge for themselves, and the case is adjudicated by these three judges. Maishna da avida hachi Amri b'marav mishbein Rav Zero מתוך שזה בורר לא דיין אחד, וזה בורר דיין אחד, ושניהם בוררים להן. עוד אחד יצא הדין לעמיתו. יצא הדין לעמיתו. The Gemara asks, what is different about this procedure? Meaning that the selection of judges is performed specifically in this manner. The sages in the West, meaning Eretz Yisrael, say in the name of Zerah, as a result of the fact that this litigant chooses one judge for himself, and that litigant chooses one judge for himself, and the two litigants choose one more judge for themselves, the true judgment will emerge. Each litigant assumes that the judges he chose do not bear a grudge against him, and he will accept their ruling. I think I'm going to split this one in half.